Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to Empower Hour. Thank you for joining us. We have an exciting call today and great things that are happening. So if you can go ahead and join us in prayer, can I ask Soshan, are you able to open us in prayer today?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Actually, join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Parents, true parents, good evening. Thank you so much for this wonderful day. We are all gathered here across the nation for this Empower Hour to really listen to Reverend Damien Dunkley to talk about and report to what's happening in Korea right now. I really hope that we can really be here and really be attentive and present in this moment. Thank you so much for guiding everybody to be here, and please people that aren't able to be here. So thank you for being here with us. I really love you, and I want to put this prayer in all of our names and in my name. So Shanhanda, bless the family. Aju.
Aju. Thank you, Soshan. So I'm going to hand it over to Ginny, who's going to start things off with some recent Hyundai, and we'll have a chance to digest. Ginny?
All right, thank you, Kaylee. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone's face and names. So today's Hyundai is going to be a little short-ish, but this is from the most recent Eyepiece TV, and this was actually Chimother's speech that she gave in the, I think I forgot to change the title, sorry, but it was actually the Southeast Summit Leadership Conference at the end of October. This is a correct picture, but just the wrong title. So for today's Hyundai, like we usually do, I'll read through the words and then we'll have a chance to do a pair share. So we'll do the breakout rooms and you can think about, what are Mother's words and what's the heart behind what she's saying in this speech. And I think it's really powerful. She's talking about Albania. She's talking about, and she said in previous speeches about how the first shall be last, the last shall be first. And it's really the spirit. I think from these words, we can really feel the spirit with which she's going about this world tour and how she really wants to bring all the world together as one. All right, so let's read. So I want to say that if humanity hopes for a beautiful future for the earth, we cannot succeed with human-centered methods. There's only one road to peace. Only when we stand in a position where we attend the absolute God, the creator of the universe, can a world of peace come about. Fallen humanity is the result of false parents. In order to accomplish the providence of restoration, we need to meet the perfected parents on earth and pass through the process of rebirth, resurrection. In that way, we can become children of the Creator God, our Heavenly Parent. All around the world today, there are people who don't know where the true truth has been revealed. Please make effort to search, study, and find out. Like the eternal Heavenly Parent, we are eternal. Life on earth is short, but true parents opened the door to the eternal world. How can there be different groups, branches, and divisions? There's only one path. However, when we think of the European continent, Albania can be considered to be last. It is written in the Bible that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Albania is now the first, and you can embrace and show the path to Europe, which could become the last. Today, if Albania overcomes all the difficulties and pain that it had, and is reborn as the heavenly nation of Albania, which attends God, Europe will not have any problem becoming one. And may Albania be at the forefront of creating one human family under God. So this is, you can find these words on Eyepiece TV, and it's actually really exciting. You can see the entire summary of what happened in Albania. And so right now we're gonna take the next, 4 to 5 minutes-ish for a pair share. And So just share with whoever you're in from reading this, hearing these words, or in general, kind of what's coming up for you in kind of seeing True Mother's world tour and what's going on currently.
Hope you had a nice sharing with brothers and sisters. It's always exciting to meet somebody new or see a face you haven't seen in a long time. So thanks for participating and sharing your insights from Hyundai. So we are really blessed to have our president, Reverend Damien Dunkley, joining us. He's still in Korea. He said he's the last man standing from the group that went to Korea. Most of them have traveled back home, but he's making time for us, and we're really excited to hear about his insights and experience. So let's unmute ourselves and give Damien a big welcome.
So was that it? That was the intro?
Oh, did you want something more? I'm sorry.
Off the applause. Okay, so let's do that again. So I'm joking. 112 years ago, a young American Christian missionary came here to Korea. Her name was Ruby Kendrick. Ruby Kendrick. She was 25 years old. She had only been serving as an assistant pastor and a Bible study teacher for a year or two when she was called on a mission to Korea. A lot of the Christian foundation in Korea, a lot of the Christian foundation in Korea was seeded at the end of the 19th century and early 20th century. Ruby Kendrick was 25 years old when she came here, and this was a time in Korea when Christianity wasn't being welcomed easily. In fact, the early missionaries were persecuted and even killed. You might find it extraordinary to imagine that the white-clad people, the peace-loving people of Korea would kill Christian missionaries. But there was one story that I heard of a young European doctor or medic who was seen in Korea cutting up physical bodies and sewing them up again, doing kind of medical experiments on bodies or some such. And rumor spread that these large, weird Western people were coming to eat us. So when Christian missionaries came, they were not really welcomed. They were feared for good reason, because they were cannibals in the eyes of the indigenous people. Ruby Kendrick, though, was so moved by her work here and moved by the Korean people. She really felt a strong spirit of God working in them. But she only lived for 8 months because she died of appendicitis at the age 25. On her deathbed, she wrote a letter to her parents, which you can Google. It's quite amazing. But in this letter to her parents, she testifies to the incredible spirit of the Korean people. She said that she remembers planting seeds in her garden before leaving and saying to her parents, surely those flowers that I seeded are growing all over our neighborhood now. But I tell you that another seed is being planted here in Korea, and from Korea, this seed will go to all over the world. She testified that there were no such people that she'd ever met like the Korean people, and the children would travel 10 miles barefoot to come and hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. She felt in the Korean people an incredible spirit of God, an incredible readiness to receive the gospel. And once the persecution had become overcome, which, by the way, was overcome because the leader of the nation at the time told everybody, we can relax, we can trust the Christians. So that's the significance of a leader of a nation changing the rules of engagement. But also, this was not called Korea at that time. It was called Chosen, like chosen people, interestingly. I went to a cemetery in Seoul where 145 foreign missionaries, mostly American, are buried because they chose to live out their lives here for the purpose of planting the root of love of Jesus Christ in this land. And what God was doing with that root of love was finding its way through to the birthplace of father and mother such that they could be born and ultimately grow to maturity and be received in this land by that foundation. But they were not received by Christianity, as you know. Fun fact, under the Japanese colonial rule, Christians were persecuted again. And if you were a Christian leader, you were asked to bow down to a Shinto shrine. You could choose not to, and then you would lose your life. But if you chose to do so, you would be elevated. So it's interesting that most of us are unaware of this, but the Christian leaders really became central in the development of this country. And the Christian leaders were many, either they were the leaders or they were influencing the leaders of the nation as it was being formed anew after Japanese rule. And America was heavily involved. So the American government and the American military were working, and UN forces later were working with Korea. But the Korea that they were working with were the descendants and the actual, were the leaders and the descendants of the leaders who kowtowed to the Japanese rule. And therefore, you could say that the Abel type Christian leaders were dead and gone, but the Cain type Christian leaders were the ones who really formed Korea. So you can see Satan working his miracles in that very arena. The foundation that God was preparing to protect and support true parents was already being eroded at that time. So I don't know if you knew that, but this is a very interesting fact of Korean history. So when I was at the cemetery, you know that the Korean movement, our movement here in Korea, does not have a good relationship with Christianity. And when I was there in the cemetery, praying at the grave sites of the missionaries who lost their lives to plant Christianity in this land, these were not the people that were persecuting true parents. These were not the people that were giving our members a hard time. These were the people who were working for God to create the foundation for true parents to be born and received, right? So I was wondering, why are we not creating a holy ground here? Why are we not making prayer conditions here in this garden? So Mother's speech on Saturday, if you saw it, great. If you didn't see it, you can go to Peace TV and watch it. She spoke to an audience of 25,000, largely our members. But in this revival rally in which she spoke, she was really speaking to the Christian pastors that were present. And I noticed, because I was so close, I was able to see, and I'm sure the camera will pick it up, there was 2 points that stood out to me that were particularly poignant for her in this speech, in such that her voice was quivering and her emotions were evident, and I could see the tears in her eyes. There was 2 points in this speech where she touched that kind of emotion. First, when she was talking about Jesus and Jesus's course. And I believe that the Christian pastors that were watching her tear up over the life of Jesus were seeing her in a new light, because, you know, most people don't realize that true parents understand Jesus's heart deeper than anybody. Yes, They teach their Wednesday Bible studies. They preach and sing and pray every Sunday and many other days of the week throughout the land of America. But how many of them really know the actual heart of Jesus, like true mother and true father? But mother was, I'm sure, tearing up about Jesus's course, not because only that it's a deep and painful story in history when you think of the failures that surrounded Jesus, but also because it's the same course that true parents travel. The same taste of persecution and misunderstanding from the very people that were supposed to embrace Jesus, the very people that were supposed to embrace true parents. The second part in the speech where mother's voice quivered and her eyes teared up was when she talked about the marriage supper of the Lamb, her own wedding day. Sisters, what do you recall when you think of your wedding day? Or what do you imagine the kind of environment you would wish to have on your future wedding day? You know, this particular wedding day was the wedding day that the entire universe was waiting for since the beginning of creation, the marriage of God's son and daughter. We think of it, the marriage supper of the Lamb, as some religious context, some historical restorational thing. But before it was any of that, it was simply the marriage of God's son and daughter, the substantial heavenly son and daughter representing heavenly parent, male and female, growing to maturity and anchoring God's lineage on the earth substantially for all of eternity. That was the idea. And so True Parents' marriage day was supposed to be a day surrounded by heavenly flowers and the songs of angels. So why, in remembering that day, would mother cry? It's because although that was a victory for God and heaven, it was surrounded by pain because it was pushed down. True parents were pushed down to the very bottom, below the bottom. They had to start below the bottom in a humble little room with a small group of people and handmade items. They conducted the most precious event in human history. Not only unknown to most, but by those who it was known to, it was under attack from. So think of how much suffering and why remembering that day is not something that can bring joy to mother's heart. Why? Because Christianity was surrounding that building, surrounding that foundation like wolves smelling blood. And both father and mother knew that although they were anchoring a victory, they were anchoring that victory in the core of Earth's mantle, and they would have to climb up through all of that core and mantle and bedrock to burst through with the first shoot of green truth of God's lineage giving birth in this earth. And they would have to fight through hell to survive. Why? Because the very foundation that was created to protect them came to attack them. So I say all of this because this is the background with which we're working here. Most of you grew up probably not really even understanding that, you know, what our relationship with Jesus was supposed to be. Many of you may have grown up being told that Jesus failed and, you know, we're better than Christians or what have you. But the truth is this, that if anything, we're completed Testament Christians or Channel-good Christians. We are those who are trying to guide the entire religious sphere to conclude itself to completion. And the central religion in the religious sphere is Christianity. Jesus, the only begotten Son of God, was the only religious figure in human history who had the power to save your life completely and bless you. But in order to do it, he had to marry. And that we stopped him from doing. In preparation for this KCLC launch, guys, I was on several conference calls with tens of Korean leaders, 20, 25 Korean leaders, all taking notes, scribbling notes, getting really stressed about this event, not just because it was another event that Mother is launching and she's keeping their eye on them, but because somehow this particular event, the launch of KCLC, is so massive, so much of a shockwave pounding out through, reverberating through this land, that they were afraid. They were afraid because how many times True Father and True Mother and other leaders before them have tried to break through with Christians in Korea. And it not only never works, it always comes back with an attack, a scouring, a scathing attack. Because to them, we are cannibals who are out to eat them and their children if they come close. You know, I met one of these Korean pastors that has been working with us. She's actually not even a pastor, she's a deacon. And she's been working with us for only 2 years. She was brought to America in 2017 through the Korean Religious Association group. And it's only ever Buddhists that join this group, but she was embedded in, she was like one of 2 kind of Christian people that were invited to America for a 2-week trip. And they were given a tour of East Garden and all of our foundation in America. But she didn't know who we were until she sat in her hotel room in the New Yorker building. And she got down on her knees after she realized that she had been invited by the Moonies on this trip. She got down on her knees and like a little girl, she prayed to God and prayed to Jesus, please protect me. Please don't take my life. Please see that I may be saved from these savages and get back home safely. Because she was that afraid to come to the awareness that she had been invited on a trip, hoodwinked by these crazy Moonies to go on this land far away to be brainwashed. What later happened to her was that she was blown away by what she saw. And she started by herself to study the divine principle. And when she studied the divine principle, she came to know that it was completely true. And that her understanding of the Bible went from like this to like whoosh, like that. And her understanding of God and Jesus and history and what the time that we're living in just completely flipped like this. But now, as a deacon, she's actually the principal of the Sunday school and a deacon, a Bible study teacher in her Methodist church here in Seoul. Now she is the one surrounded by people who think differently. She's the one, she's the foreigner in her own land. She's the stranger in her own church. She's the threat among her own people. And she still to this day doesn't know what to do. I think, in fact, today, she's going under an inquisition of sorts by all of her elders and her pastors. And they're asking her today, why is it that you participated in the launch of KCLC and you're having any association with ACLC, who we've now figured out is founded by by Reverend and Mrs. Moon? Why are you doing this? Why this? Why that? What do you think? What do you say? Are you one of them? Are you going to vote? You know, it's an inquisition. So in a sense, what Mother has done here is she's launched KCLC, yes. But in another sense, what she's done is she's shown her hand. And what's her hand? Her hand is, look, the American Christian leaders, just like the American Christian missionaries that were here a century ago, are working for God, and they believe in me. They understand me. And they do all understand Mother to varying degrees, many of which to total degree understand True Mother and who she is. So what is America's hope? What is Mother's hope for America? What is Mother's hope for the American Christian pastors who are here? Is it just that they're here and they're testifying to true parents and then they're going to inspire the Christian pastors? No, in my opinion, their first job has been to inspire our own Korean leaders who are essentially for decades walking around with their tails between their legs because they're so afraid. The environment here is like, yeah, Korea's awesome, right? You've been to Korea, it's awesome. But in terms of you as a Tongil Kyo member walking into a Korean church, you might as well just go to North Korea if you want to experience the type of welcoming environment you're going to experience. Now, I say that, having said that, I know many Christian people in Korea. They're the deepest, hardest people you'll meet. They're more on fire than the Christian you've got down the road. But they are deathly afraid of true parents. So when the American ACLC come to Korea, and show that, look, we're alive, guys. We're standing. We're not killed. We haven't been eaten. We haven't been scourged and our organs taken out on the table and chopped up by crazy Mooney brainwashing people. That's not who they are. Well, that kind of changes the equation, but also it brings up a greater attack. But with this new beginning, this foundation that was formed between ACLC and KCLC, Mother now has a foundation to launch WCLC in New York this December and show it off to the world in the rally the next day in New Jersey, New Jerusalem, in the Prudential Center. Everything that Mother's been doing over the last 7 years is preparation for True Mother's gift to Father, honoring his 100th birthday this coming February. And America's role in this is no small role. We're the only country in the world that has created a foundation with Christianity. Guys, you need to think of yourselves not just as youth leaders or leaders in whatever capacity you are of Family Fed. We are family, but we're working with the sphere of religion centering on Christianity. And if you want your great, 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 great grandchildren to suffer, then don't work with Christianity. Let's try do it alone. But if you want your children or your grandchildren, even yourselves, to experience God working in a major way in your own lifetime to solve real world problems, then work with Christianity. Figure out what it is that you can do to surrender and humble your own mind and heart and bow down like Jacob did to Esau, such that you might win their heart to work with you and work with your family and your community. Learn. Even if you're starting from -10, be ready to totally change and learn. Because if we want to do this alone without them, it will be a long time coming. But if we can do it with them, you're going to see an entire foundation that God has prepared, and incredible people died for this. You know, what do you think Jesus, what do you think all of those missionaries who died and the Christian martyrs died for? Did they die to kill the very thing they've been longing and waiting for? No. So Mother is extending her hand, like giving Christianity another chance to get right with God and get right with Jesus, ironically. So that's what's happening this December. We're launching the World Christian Clergy Leadership Conference, and that's going to send shockwaves throughout the entire world system. But Mother started it right here in Korea, where we have the 38th parallel, this trick, this evil trick that makes people think this is two nations. It's not two nations. It's one nation, one bloodline, one family that's been torn apart and was left like this because we, the American people, left it like this. We left the job undone. So now, like the Christian missionaries 100 years ago, the Christian pastors have come to this land to tell them, don't worry, God is working here. Don't worry, we can not only unify Korea, we can not only, but we're going to start by unifying the body of Christ itself. And with that, not only will we unify this land, but we will be able to create the heavenly culture that will sustain the unification. Because guys, this country is going to unite. That's not the question. It's going to unite. Okay? The question is, what will happen after it unites? Who will be taking care of it? And with what culture will it unite? Will God be a part of that unification or not? Because when it unites, and it will unite, will our prayers and sacrifice be a part of that? Will Christianity have something to do with that? Will a fractured, broken, argumentative Christianity, a selfish Christianity, everybody after their own welfare Christianity have something to do with that? Or will a surrendered, humble, willing to die for the will type of unified Christianity have something to do with that? I believe it is us in Family Fed that hold the key. If we lead with that type of grace and that type of mindset and unity, we will inspire Christianity to fulfill their calling. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I ask the pastors one-on-one, what is it that you see? And what is it that you must do? They tell me, I've not seen anybody like Mother do what she's doing on the world stage. And I've not seen anybody like you, your people, your young people, your families. What they are witnessing, guys, as adopted children, they're sensing this flavor that emanates, this aroma, this perfume that emanates from you, God's children. You are not adopted children. You are God's children. You have God's birthright. You were born with God's birthright. And the explanation does not fit into their doctrine, but they feel it. That's why before every breakthrough that we've had with any of the pastors or Christian leaders, the Holy Spirit of the love of God felt in the relationship precedes it, okay? That comes first. So you just showing up, you're made of how many cells? Each of them vibrating with God's true love lineage energy. I mean, you showing up in the room. You know, it's like when you poop, you don't really smell your own poop, right? You don't really smell the beauty of your own perfume either. And you guys smell good, apart from when you're pooping. You smell good. And they can feel it. They can sense it. And they sense it especially when we are united together. So know that what we're going to do over the next 10 years is we are going to recoup all of our own lost children, our people, our first and second generation that have been gone away because they were mistreated or they didn't understand what the hell was going on. I understand, I get it. But I personally don't have any time anymore to waste for anyone that doesn't understand who true parents are. I'm willing to give my life for it, but I'm not willing to argue or debate, if you know what I'm talking about. We are the real deal. God is the real deal. God does exist. True parents are central in God's work, and we're so blessed to be connected to them. The work that we're doing together is changing the world. Nation state leaders are looking at Mother and bowing down to her and saying, oh my God. Okay, check this out. In Nagoya at the press conference, one person asked Mother a question about North and South Korea. A journalist asked her, Mother Moon or Dr. Moon, what is it that you would say to Kim Jong-un and President Moon? What type of advice would you give them in order to unite this nation? Now, one person told me that her answer was a little bit embarrassing. The journalists might have expected to hear some type of geopolitical strategic plan from Mother. But what Mother said was simple. Mother's answer was this. She said, they have to unite with me. Why do we want to make everything so complicated? Because we have to flex our degrees? Why do we have to make everything in the world so complicated? Why? Mother said, unite with me. If we attend God and if we attend true parents, God will solve everything. That's why Mother's been saying again and again, man cannot fix this. Man has done all that man can do. God has to do the rest. And only with our unity of attendance to true Mother will we do it. So this is it. I end with this conclusion. Your responsibility as an American member and as an American leader, I don't care, we call you young leaders. I don't care, you're young leaders. You stand on the foundation of thousands of years of preparation. So you guys are thousands of years old, and there's only a couple of seconds between us to tell you the truth. So you as American leaders, what is on your mind? What is your question about what I think we need to do in America? We need to invest everything we can between now and December 28th, because I believe the amount that we invest between now and then will determine the grace that we experience over the next 10 years. We're going to determine the next decade this month in America. And the two things that are on my mind are the National Victory Fund, which is incredibly deep, its meaning, and mobilization for December 28th. Some of you guys are going to be mobilizing. Some of you guys are going to be dancing. Some of you guys are going to be hosting watch parties, whatever. But know this, everything leads to these two things. These two are the remaining two things we need to do to package our gift for True Mother from America. And watch, we're going to win in December. It's like investing in Coca-Cola year one. It's going to be successful. The question is, how much am I going to invest between now and then? That's what's on my mind. Thank you. I pass it back to you, Kale.
Wow, Damien. Let's, someone, can you unmute everybody? Show our appreciation.
Damien.
Yeah, Damien, your inspiration and your inspiration and your passion is like tangible. You were on a Zoom call, but like I feel like you're sitting right in front of me, and I'm like overwhelmed with the energy that's coming from you, and it's incredible. I know, like, you know, as young people, it can also be overwhelming for us to hear about like how beautiful we smell, and we are the fruit of true parents and things like that. But the point that Damien's making is like, and Dr. Kim's been sharing about this too, that one of the most important aspects is our level of commitment, and everything else falls in place as a result of that. So Damien, thank you for your passion. It's infusing into all of our souls, and we're so grateful to be able to connect with you so fresh off of this frontline experience that you had. I know that you have to go soon. There were just a few questions. If you can take a few more minutes to answer, is that okay? Okay. So who are the Korean Christian leaders who are part of KCLC? Are there any major Korean pastors who are standing up with True Mother? Or maybe you could just share some insights about working with the Korean pastors there.
There's one major pastor who's been with us for a while, and he is actually quite a major player. He has foundations here in China and Thailand and a bunch of other countries, I believe. You know, we had a lunch. If you want to know what happened, you know, I saved you all the details. You can just go to my Facebook wall and literally watch every step and chapter of the week. But we had a press conference lunch where 2 or 3 tables of press showed up with cameras and reporters asking questions. I don't know what's come of that, but we are, you can say, that's why I mentioned the first step is really changing the mindset of our own leaders here. Because in a sense, they've kind of done this before, but it's almost been like just showing, it's like banner shot, we did it. This was real this time. We were supposed to go into the Christian churches, but there was only a few places where we were invited in. It's a war. But yes, we are working with, I would say, a handful of really core Christian leaders who are working with us. But the 5 sub-regions pulled off, and they invited, there was 700 people there, and I think there was at least 300 plus Christian pastors who were coming to an event titled Heavenly Unified Korea. Half of them probably knew who we were when they came, half of them probably didn't. But they all witnessed major player Christian leaders like Noel Jones and others get up on stage and testify. So that we'll see what it does. And many of them will come to America and maybe even Washington in November. So that's kind of a sense of where we're at. How many Koreans are invited to New Jersey? What's your next question?
Yep, that was it.
As many as can come. I don't have a fixed number on how many have been invited or how many will come, but I did hear in one of our meetings a couple of the organizers suggesting that maybe 100, maybe 150. I mean, if 12 come, it would be a breakthrough. You know, all of the ACLC leaders that we're working with in America, it all started with one little thing. So a seed, you know, a seed is small, but it has a massive impact if it's taken care of well. But those are the kind of numbers. I'm anticipating also about the same number from Europe based on what Dr. Balcom has said. There might be about 1,000 leaders, both family-fed and non-family-fed leaders, peace leaders and Christian leaders and religious leaders from around the world that attend. And the rest will be made up of our people in America.
And any comment on this controversial question of inviting the president, our president, US president, to the New York rally?
The event that we're inviting the president to and all the presidents to is the summit in Korea, actually. What we're planning on doing, and I have to get back and see how things are developing, but what we're planning on doing in December is inviting the mayor of Newark, both him and his wife. We might even be able to get them to participate in the blessing or give True Mother the flowers, certainly to be there for some part of it. And also the governor of New Jersey. Both of them are very close friends with Curtis Farrow. he also wants to invite all of the county mayors and local city mayors from New Jersey. This is a big deal for New Jersey. It's a big deal because this hasn't happened before in New Jersey at anything like this scale. So there's a lot of new spiritual layers that we're breaking through like this, starting with Crescentia Degoti being appointed as the district pastor of our biggest district in the Western Hemisphere. So pray for her, support her. Now Kimi's going to be stepping up as assistant pastor. There's divine reasoning in all of this. And I just heard a report from Clifton that there was about 120 people that came to the first service, and the second service was packed. And there was a bunch of people asking the question, "Excuse me, where's the restroom?" So that's a good thing when you have people in the church asking where the bathroom is. They were young people, by the way. So we need to really pray and support for New Jersey, Crescentia and her team. But yes, we're going to be reaching out to all the heavy hitters. As far as Trump coming to this event, we have to work with UPF on this sort of, at that level, we're talking special task force initiative, right? It's not like us guys write him a letter, although we could all write Trump a letter, probably be a good idea. But it's really, there's lots of angles that we have into the president, including Paula White, who is the chief religious coordinator. I don't know what the title is, but we're very close with Paula White. Bishop Jones is very close with Obama. He's being invited to Korea at the summit. Listen, what Mother has asked us to do in the last 7 years is impossible. You know it, right? But she's asking us to do the impossible so we get out of our damn beds and start working out. It's like that, right? So Newt Gingrich would never have come to Korea unless we reached for all the presidents. We reached for everybody, and we got Newt Gingrich, and he came and he blew everybody away. And he's growing, and he's almost becoming, this is, you know, not to, but anyway, his heart is, we can see, really deepening, kind of like a Noel Jones kind of deepening. So it's a process, but we have to reach, what is it? They say, reach for the moon. And if you miss the moon, at least you can grab onto the stars. Something like that, or the other way around, I don't know. So maybe, I don't want to use any of your time. You know, Spase came back from Albania. That was a major, major victory. If you have to extend the call 5 minutes, do so. Check out what's going on in Albania. I've already heard a lot of great things this end. And Dr. Balcom is on fire over there in Europe. And he's also now been appointed as the national leader of England, UK. So Mother is constantly making new appointment changes, moving the board around for real impact. And she knows what she's doing. So thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Damien. Thank you for your time and investment. And he's hopping on a flight back home shortly. So let's give Damien one more round of applause. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Woo, woo.
Okay, so we actually have one more sharing that I'm really excited to be able to feature. Spase Kase was able to attend the events that happened in Albania, and I know that I've been, you know, watching the video Jenny mentioned and reading up on the articles, and it's so exciting to see True Mother welcomed on this kind of platform, you know, really by important people. So we want to hear his testimony and his insights from the experience there, front row experience. So let's all welcome Spase. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you for inviting me. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of introduction about where this country Albania is. Some of you may have heard about it because of True Mother's event there, but it's basically next to Greece, Italy, just very, very small country, around 3-4 million people. Has been over 500 years under Turkish occupation, so a lot of suffering. The First World War also started right next to it in Serbia, which is a neighbor of Albania. If you remember the history of King Ferdinand I. And then the Second World War, and then recently you had the civil wars with Kosovo, if you remember, which is a neighbor of Albania, where when Bill Clinton was the president, and then communism to 1989. So we can only say that Albania is a young country in terms of democracy of 30 years. So it's still a lot of corruption and so on and so forth, but it has a very strong family tradition. People respect their parents and vice versa, and they believe in education and try to live a righteous life. And have always been looking for a little more substantial, but for them, family is a very, very important unit. So I was born in Albania. I'm not Albanian ethnically, I'm Macedonian. Because of the wars that happened, we were left there as a minorities, but I left the country 11 years ago. I joined the church in Albania. I'm first generation by an STF, by the STF group. I was witnessed by a German sister, which also happened to be blessed in America and live in Boston, surprisingly. And then, so this was my first time going back there in 11 years for church purpose. I was back actually with my wife, I think 3 years ago, to see my relatives and before I start family life. But when I heard about this event, part of me wanted really to be there to support my brothers and sisters who I was together, doing mission with them. They're almost my age, our age, which is, so this is very relatable. So they have, look what they're doing. It's exactly our age. And, but, I have a 1-year-old daughter at 12 months and then 1-month-old son. So my point is always some type of challenge or obstacle that's in front of us that we have to say, man, it's so hard to do this or do that. But my wife was very supportive, and she said, it's really important for you to go. It means a lot to you. These are your brothers and sisters, to support them. This is your country, and these are true parents. We have to support them, whatever they are, as much as we can, as much as we do. So what was different about this country or this event particularly from other events in other countries? And I really felt a difference this time. I have been, to many of other events, but for me, every time I go to an event, it looks like we're all the members being bused from different cities, and we all go to the same event over and over and over again. But this was completely different. This was an event that was a 3-day event, and I was actually assigned security the first night I landed there. So I have no idea what True Mother was saying because I could not translate. I was next to her. And we had to be all day on our feet watching over. But you can feel the happiness in brother's eyes. True Mother was so free. She spoke more than she had planned. And the family blessing festival was, all the people who were invited there were people who were blessed in the cities and who came over. These were not members like us in our sense. So they were very, there was I would like to say, very natural festival. It wasn't just members being bused from different cities. Also, we had a live coverage by the news media. That was profound. Like, imagine True Mother giving the blessing inside the stadium or the Congress Hall, but also being broadcast to the whole nation, meaning she's blessing the whole nation simultaneously. I've never seen it happen anywhere, but somehow this small country was able to do it. And you had 150 media outlets, talking about it. Of course, we were, I want to talk a little bit about these key members or key figures or people that Damien also mentioned, about how this came about. And I really wish that I could stay longer after the event to talk to his brothers and sisters so I can ask them, how you feeling and how did you guys pull it off, and how do you do it, or what's your next steps? But the point is that I could feel the difference about this country. And when you go at the end of the day home or at the hotel, and then you see all the reports talking about True Mother, and different reporters talking about the peace summit. We had former presidents and current ambassadors of peace, and not just of Albania but of Macedonia, of Kosovo. You have the former presidents, and the picture actually you saw about the Japan festival, they were all from Albania. Actually, they were presidents and former presidents. They also not only attended the event but also attended the blessing afterwards, so they participated in the blessing. So there's already a relationship being created right there on the spot about bringing peace from these different political figures, and there is no pressure for them to be on any political election, because for them this is a family festival and a gathering. um, but um, the other thing that it stood out for me, it was that there was a youth festival basically organized by the young adults in the Congress of Hall. And I don't remember very well, but I do know there was an essay contest, and I've seen it in a local level back in my city, in Albania, where they organize it with the schools. One way to introduce to parents is to organize a workshop. I'm not a workshop, I'm sorry, a contest about True Father's autobiography. So basically all the students studied, and who writes the best essay or summarizing it or whatever the case may be, or a poem out of it, gets an award at the end of the contest. You have a judging and a committee. So there were awards for that and music. And this event was packed by top level musicians, like the best in the country, whether it was for the young adults or whether it was for the um, Family Blessing Festival at the end. And also you have right there at the festival, the first lady of the country. So basically the wife of the president, bringing True Mother, welcoming her at the festival and giving her a 300-year-old present from 1780 something. Basically, it was a very traditional vest that a man would wear that symbolizes it was like old and torn. Of course, it was, cleaned up, but the idea was how this vest for centuries has been passed around from family to family, carrying, basically being the shoulder of the family, carrying the weight of the family, of the tribe, of the nation, year after year, century after century, without changing. And this is how this festival represents the same thing, that we are here to reestablish and strengthen the family tradition within this nation and pass it along to our generations. It was a beautiful ceremony. The first day you have the young adults, fun and energized, and then the next day you have the family blessing, who brings everything to a much more serious level. And then afterwards we had the um, victory celebration of True Mother, of the event where True Mother came to the hotel. There were lots of members, like 300, 400 people, dancing and music, and this was more intimate, right? Because these were our real members, core members. It was much more intimate. True Mother spoke again freely. I have no idea what she said. I have the videos. I cannot wait to send them to some Korean speaking brothers so they can tell me what she said. And I was lucky to be there, because True Father came there like 7 or 8 years ago for the first time ever, in one way opening the way for our country to grow spiritually and give him the blessing. And I remember, again, I was very young back then. I joined the church when I was 15, 16 years old. And I think True Father came when I was a year later, 17. And he talked about how our country was young, like Korea after the occupation. And look where Korea is right now. And that it was the youth that brought it, like all the universities and the protests they do, right, that brought the Korea, the nation, and all these developments later. So, and then now, 7, 8 years later, True Mother coming back, and then she blesses this nation live. At the same time, on the political sphere, we don't just do talks, right? They haven't been just doing talks and conference after this and conference after that, but they opened the actual embassy, a peace embassy, What the heck does a peace embassy mean? I have no idea, but I can only imagine um, from what they were saying at the event about True Father talking about the peace embassy, basically meaning an embassy between the physical world and the spirit world, and a place where on the political sphere and also in the religious sphere can bring harmony. So I think, I mean, I'm not the architect of the embassy, nor I was involved. I had nor had a time to find out more about it. But from what I understand is that um, this is the place where all the ambassadors for peace can go and talk and gather and create actual plans how to bring the different aspects of the nation that are facing difficulty, whether it's religious or political aspects. These are people who are not in the election mode, who are former presidents or different, church leaders. There's no pressure on them to perform a certain activity because certain denomination asks them to do it. But it was just packed, and for me, it felt all raw. Like I was in the New York event when True Mother came, but I felt like all our members are there. We have all this, choir and everything, but how many of them understand the value and the meaning? And then when I was in Albania, the next days at the victory celebration, the members were speaking about how for the first time ever that they were being persecuted all this time by their families, but after they saw the blessing live on TV, and then they saw the former president stand there and the media covering it and everything, they just said overnight they organized themselves, said parents called the relatives, they all drove by there. So they were so grateful to True Mother for still believing in the country in Albania and believing in the youth there, and making the effort to come all the way down to such a small nation, insignificant in the eyes of Europe, because a week ago Albania was even denied access again to join the European Union. So the country has been demoralized politically, has caused even more chaos and blame um, for each of the political parties, blaming each other why they didn't chosen. So they're very grateful for True Mother to come and bring this more of a spiritual peace, and saying Albania, even though it was last and not chosen, but you can be the leaders of the future. So many parents were able to come in. So what I saw was basically from when I left that country, this country was when True Father came, established a foundation of faith. The True Father came there because he saw the faith of these young brothers and sisters. He saw the effort, he wanted to bless them. And then 7, 8 years down the road, through their hard work, they established a foundation of substance. And that substance is the Peace Embassy, is the media, is the Ambassadors for Peace, is the First Lady, and you name it, and different organizations. So that is the substance. And now it's time to grow that. You establish it, all of these events. Now you become a significant player. You're not a small fish anymore. Now you're a big player. So people will be looking up to you. And it's a harmony there. The young people are listening to the elders in terms of membership. They're very lucky to have, great leadership nationwide in Europe, such as Dr. Balcom and other people, from the UPF and local, GPAs or STF, I think called in Europe, who visits Albania all the time. But also, I saw very determined brothers and sisters who were just, when True Mother was speaking, their eyes were just beaming with light. And they were like crying and determined to make True Mother happy. These are people, for example, who after they finish college and university, they just determined to be full-time members. Some of them, of course, they're people who work and who have families, still work, but they're there. They were security, they were volunteering, whatever the case may be. They have not changed. So for us, I think it was very important for me and other brothers and sisters from other parts of Europe who left our country, who went there, to show them, hey, we haven't lost our faith too in you. It's because, you see this world, you watch the news every single day, the fighting and the negativity. And when you go up there and you show them, say, hey, we believe in you. We're here for you. Tell us what you need. This is your event. You lead it. We're here to support you. This means not just for Albania. This means also a lot to us and the rest of the world. It's very encouraging to them, and I think they were very, very happy and surprised to see so many of us to be there. But I was also, as much as good this was for the country, I was really, really happy. I can feel the happiness in True Mother's eyes, and her family was there. They were dancing when the music was on. They were laughing. True Mother was at peace. It's very hard to see True Mother and her family at peace and comfort because we know how much responsibility they have for this world, and True Mother is on a time clock, as Demian also mentioned. So the other thing, that Demian also mentioned was that this key factor people, um, the only people, the
Spase,
person that, yeah,
Spase, we have just 1 or 2 more minutes if you can just make your final point. Sorry, we went
yes,
over time this call. Thank you.
no worries. I was just looking at my clock and it's 10:06 and I will make it in 1 minute.
Okay, great.
The only person that, or the most significant person that made this all available was the former president of Fred Moisiu. And you may have seen him on True Father's autobiography on the back. His words are there. You also saw him on True Father's Songpan ceremony. He gave, last words. He is the one who opened everything. My country is a troubled country. It's a lot of corruption and many things. And we're a family federation. We don't support corruption, nor do we support any of those type of things. So he went everywhere and opened every door for this, whether, and let every politician know who we are. That's when True Mother came. You have red carpets, you have the media. We have, of course, members who are in the media, but gaining the trust and the support is a different story because everybody's careful there saying who these people are, and I might have to run for election next time. How this is going to make me look? I mean, am I going to be called, to be impeached again, like Trump? And, who knows who this organization is? Maybe, a Korean secret agency. Who knows? But the point is, when you have people with dignity like the former president, Fred Moisiu, and people who are respected, it opens a door. So that's why Damien mentioned that, president in Korea who acknowledges Korean, these American, missionaries, or we know of Constantine who finally, made Christianity religion, gave, official status. I think that's what we all are striving to do, is work hard to create a foundation of substance to be acknowledged by our official leaders, because that will make our job way much more easier, be accessible to much more people, and not be in this persecution type of state. But I think my final sentence would be to say that these were brothers and sisters just like us with our age who did it, and there's no reason why we also cannot do what they're doing it. And anybody's winning and effort will be rewarded by God and true parents, and any small victory is a victory for everybody. So I hope in any way I was able to relate kind of what they did to you and express their heart to you. So I hope I was able to convey it properly. Thank you.
Yeah, let's
Give me
give
the chance.
Spase a round of applause. Thank you so much for your sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate. I really appreciate your perspective. It gives like this whole big picture to what happened. It's one thing to read the report, but you understanding that country in such a significant way and how it's transformed over the last few years, and to have the First Lady present, a president, and also the former president. I mean, it's just such exciting things. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony. So grateful. And sorry, everybody, we went over time. So many exciting things to share. I'm going to just offer a quick, short prayer to close things out. Most beloved Heavenly Parent, thank you for this evening, and thank you for letting us be connected to these transforming and pivotal moments in the providence of restoration. God, we are humbled and stunned and amazed at what is happening, and we want to be a part of it. Heavenly Father, I pray that each of us can be open to your calling and your insight and how we can be a part of these important moments in history. We love you and thank you for the family that we're a part of. We pray for our true mother and all that she is doing, and especially this tour at this time. And we offer all these things in the name of David and Kaylee Moffat, a blessed family. Amen and adieu. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. See you next week for our Ministry breakout. Thank you. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.